Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Miss Congeniality. We have video, we have audio today, and we have an amazing guest. For those of you who don't know this shining star, you might know her as James is Smiling on TikTok and Instagram. They are an actor living in New York City, but they're so much more than that. Like, I was reading your bio, honey, and I was like, okay, we are a health at every size personal trainer and trauma-informed yoga teacher.
It's true.
I'm like, we are writing about gender liberation, eating disorder recovery, trauma, sex, feelings. Like, I was like, okay, we are so much more than just an actor. And I feel like sometimes when we are creative in some category, like for me being a writer or even being a content creator, all of a sudden it's like you have to be that. Like you're not allowed to exist as like anything else. And one thing I try to do on the podcast is like talk about the way that like people, but specifically like women and femme presenting people, how we're not allowed to be more than one thing like ever, and it gives me so much anxiety. That's why it's called miscongeniality. Like be a little bit of everything, and I love that about you.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember somebody asked me to define what I do in some sort of like meeting, I don't know, over Zoom or whatever. And I said, I am a storyteller. And it just clicked in that moment.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a storyteller and I use a bunch of different mediums to tell stories. But the thing
Yeah.
that lights me up is like, what is the greater connection to our humanity in this story? And that can be a story that I'm telling with a play or a musical, or that's a story that I'm telling through a TikTok video, or it's something I'm writing about that's a story that matters to me that I hope would matter to you.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there are different ways and like things that I use to weave in storytelling. So
Yeah, I feel like people that aren't theater people also don't really get, like, when you grow up doing theater, you develop a level of empathy
mm,
that's a bit like more. I think it's just more intelligent almost. It's like at a higher level because you're like embodying characters from a very young age, and you're also learning to like interact with people within their own identities, but also the identities that they're portraying on the stage.
a lot of
And
self-awareness.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and I think like it, because people will always ask me like, how do you come up with ideas for your videos? How do you stay creative? All these things, and I'm like, at my core, I am a theater person, and like that is what we all go back to.
Yeah.
With so many of us who like to tell stories.
Right. And so many of your favorite TikTok creators have a BFA. Like
Oh,
almost every single one.
so
I can only think
many.
of one person, only Brittany Broski that I can think of that's like a huge creator that doesn't have a BFA.
No, like
I'm
they
sure there's
all,
others, but still.
or just like an arts degree. Like they're
Right.
all art people.
Everyone's an entertainer of some
of
sort.
some kind.
Yeah.
So I love to kick off my episodes asking my guests
Ooh.
a tough question that I feel like people do
Ready.
not get asked.
Mm.
And I want you to know that your answer to this question, it doesn't need to be something you're looking to resolve. What is your fatal flaw? And again, this could be a flaw that you have accepted that you will have for the rest of your
Oh.
days, like, and that you would like to just like live it with and exist with, and you might even like it.
My fatal flaw is that I'm always right. Even if I'm not. There are occasions where I'm not, but it's rare. And like I work really, really hard to understand if I'm speaking on something, I'm definitely right because I'm speaking about my personal experience. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
really
yeah.
no arguments there. But when I feel passionately about something, I will have a righteousness that like I will just eviscerate you intellectually if
Yeah.
I disagree with you, and I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And it's been something that has really gotten a lot of doors open for me in the past, and also really
some
slammed
slammed,
some doors in
yeah.
my face because I've always been a talented arguer and persuader. And
Yeah.
so when I feel convicted about something or I feel something in my conviction, what's the tense of that word I'm looking for? It doesn't matter. See, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be right there. But like
But you are.
I have to be right, and I have to make sure everyone understands why that is.
Yeah.
And usually that's like really aligned with like my moral compass. So when that comes out as like about trans rights or about like social justice
Yeah.
or about like it's not like I like this play and you don't, so therefore you're wrong. It's
Yeah,
about
yeah,
something
yeah.
that really matters to me in the world.
for sure.
But that's I would say my fatal flaw because then I'll end up caring a lot about the subject.
Yeah.
And I can't let it go.
Well, okay, it's interesting that you say that because I think a lot of people, again with the gender, misconstrue women just like being correct with like, oh, she's a bitch, she's so pushy or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
I was just listening to a podcast that Teffy was on. I don't know if you've seen Teffy on TikTok. She's
haven't.
amazing. And the podcast host asked her like what she's greedy about or something like that.
Ooh.
And she was like, attention. And she was like, but not in a bad way. I just want everything. She was like, I want the EGOT. Like, I want it. And that
Yeah.
doesn't make me a bitch. And that doesn't make me crazy. Like, I am just a person that like wants to go out and get it all. And I want to show other people that they can too. And I was like, that's so
Yeah.
refreshing. Cause I almost always feel like I'm trying to like make myself be like, oh, I'm wrong, or like, oh, I can't, oh, like, you know what I mean? I
Yes.
can't be so loud and like have all of these opinions. I need to like squish myself.
I think it's really interesting to hear that perspective as well. And I've talked to a lot of cis women in my life about this because one of the party favors that I picked up from being socially conditioned as a man, even though it was an incorrect socialization and it didn't fit the core of who I was, there were some things that I was afforded, such as the idea that when I walk into a room, everyone will listen. Because when men walk into a room, you're trained as a man that you have a valuable opinion and that it's good to want things, that your ambition is something you want. You know, insert like Taylor Swift's The Man playing
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
you, right? So it's like you're conditioned that that is a good thing
Yeah.
that you should run after. And then kind of back to your multi-hyphenate thing, you know, any person that's not a man that wants an EGOT, wants multiple things, does multiple things, has their hands in a lot of bowls, is inconsistent or flaky or like watery,
Flighty.
right? Now, what's interesting is because people don't know where to put me as a non-binary person in
Yeah.
terms of like what gender role to assign me, I get a little bit of a mix of both.
Yeah.
I notice that if I say, I want this, I'm right about this, I deserve this, people listen to me. I think some of them are still thinking of me as a man incorrectly, which is a
Yeah.
really sad
It's tough.
construct. And then I think other people are seeing that as like, oh my gosh, look at this femme who is taking what they learned from, you know, cosplaying as a man for years
Yeah.
and applying that to feminine spaces and wanting these things that women and other non-men have been taught we can't have.
Yeah.
That's what I would hope the impact is.
Yeah.
But I would have said my second fatal flaw was ambition. So it's interesting to
Yeah.
hear that that was your.
No, I love that because I've really looked up to you and your content for a really long
Thank you.
time because I think that you filled a space for me where I was like, this is a person who just like knows that they're worthy.
Mm.
And I just like sometimes didn't feel that way. And I would watch your content and be like, it's almost like you just knew you were worthy, but you also like knew people couldn't take away your worth even if they were trying to. And like, you're so confident in that. And then I like read your Instagram bio or something and I was like, it's just like this like inner confidence that you like absolutely radiate. Where does
you.
it like come from? Or if you think that those things are false, like let me know. But like, I really just see you as a person who like feels like I'm worth it. And I love
Thank
that.
you. I really have to hand it to the social conditioning that told me that I was. And I also think that the systems that I grew up in really benefited me. So I think a lot of it that you're seeing is just like the privilege of, for instance, the school system. The way that the school system is built is like it rewards hard workers, it rewards like white people that
Yeah.
think, right? Well, I was a hardworking white person that
That
thought a
thought,
lot and
yeah.
like had deep ideas and whatnot. So that was privilege to the nth degree, right? Like I like broke records for like the highest GPA at my school, like stuff like that, which is not
Genius.
which is not so much a brag as it is to illustrate the way that that system privileged me. When
Yeah.
it doesn't privilege a lot of people because
Exactly.
like there were other people that I think were objectively book smarter than me that didn't work as hard because they didn't have to and they
Yeah.
knew that secret, but I was there to outwork them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you were like, that's why I'm showing up today.
So then all the adults in my life, I got so much positive social reinforcement for being an amazing student. Like when we were having this is so funny. When we were having the like discussion of where to go to colleges, I applied to like 14 musical theater schools because I knew that's
Love
what I
it.
wanted to do. I was like, I will get my musical theater degree. And then my safe schools, I applied to all 7 Ivies. And I was like, I'll get into at least one.
No, but like, bitch,
Who does that?
But we need that energy.
Who
Like,
does that?
I cannot express it enough. Like when you tell yourself, like, I'm so fucking hot, like
Yes.
you will actually see a physical change because
Totally.
you will believe it.
Totally.
When you tell yourself, like, this is my fucking safety school, like Harvard, like it's hard. Like,
Like it's
no, like,
hard.
look at her. Elwood,
Literally.
she
Literally.
rose to the top. How did she do it? She just like bitched her way there.
And I think that as far as confidence goes, I think confidence is fake. Like I
It
don't
is.
I think it's just a mindset. I think it's just walking in and saying, I deserve this. Like
Yeah.
because when I I saw this quote at one point that said if you had a 5-minute conversation with any Fortune 500 CEO, your imposter syndrome would be gone. And personally, I've never really looked up to Fortune 500 CEOs as people to aspire to be. I said that and I meant it.
We meant it.
We meant that. Contact me. I want to talk
Yeah.
to you for 5 minutes and cure my imposter syndrome. No. And then I also remember like people like Amy Coney Barrett hold power in our society. People objectively
Yeah.
unqualified for the positions that they hold, right?
Yeah.
And so who am I to gaslight myself out of my own qualifications, out of my
Yeah.
own worth and like what I deserve?
Yeah.
Because the truth is somebody's always going to say that you don't deserve it. So why do you need to be the person to say that? somebody else has already filled that role. Somebody thinks you're not good enough.
So right.
Somebody thinks I'm not good enough. I don't need to fill that role in society. But the role in
Yeah.
society that maybe does need to be filled is the one that says, your story is worth telling. You have a unique experience that could offer something. Like, what your brain does is different than anyone else's. And the only person that knows the potential and the capacity of your own brain is you.
Yeah.
And I think because I publicly transitioned earlier than like the rise of TikTok, I had time to establish myself as a transgender person and as a non-binary person and decide that those things were worthy.
Yeah.
Because I knew, and I still know, by walking into a room, people don't know what to do with me. Nowadays, they really want to accept, but they don't know how. They don't know the right
Yeah.
words. There's a lot of well-intentioned harm, I guess, that's
Yeah.
happening. But then there's also the people that are like, we hate you, we want you to die. Here's 210 bills today as the count of like anti-trans legislation that's currently on the floor across the United States. 210 bills.
Can they like go touch grass? Do they have? But my thing is, do they have nothing else to accomplish? Like,
Oh,
shit, it's a
exactly.
fucking dumpster fire out
And
there,
that's what
girl.
you're
Like,
focusing on?
and this is what
Yeah.
you're doing. Like, it's just hate. It's just baseless hate.
It is. So for me, my walking into a room and saying I deserve the attention or I deserve this job or whatever it is also a radical act of resistance against
Yeah.
the state violence that says we want to kill you.
Yeah.
Like, we are living through a trans genocide, right?
Yeah.
Like, young trans people that can't access affirming surgery, or hormones or whatever they need. And I mean young people, some of them are young adults, some of them are kids. Like, it depends on what
Yeah.
your individual situation is, right? There are trans kids right now that will not grow up to have what I have. And that kills me, like, thinking about that. And if I walk into rooms, because I got handed a really good deal, right? Like, I just got a lucky set of cards. And
Yeah.
so I feel like part of my responsibility is to name that, but also to run with it.
Yeah.
Because if I can like just pull this relay race 1 degree further, then like maybe we get a couple more trans kids that get to grow up because
Yeah.
somebody with influence and power, more so than I have, sees me as a human being that does deserve
Yeah.
those things. And we start to convince gatekeepers of our worth. So it's an act of resistance.
I
too.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's a politic.
Yeah, it really is. And like what you said about confidence being fake is so true. I'm always like, it's kind of an accessory. Like, you throw it on when
Yeah.
you're leaving the house,
Mm,
and like you throw it on like you pick out your purse, and it's just a thing that you have.
I
And
love your person.
oh my god, thank you. But it's like a thing that you have, and nobody's like,
Yes.
you don't have that because you're like, it's if you think about it as a tangible thing, it's something that you can have,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a choice too,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah. I think I also, once I started crying on the internet and like, once I started, I really did this favor to myself early on. I used to do these sex stories. I don't know if we were connected when I did these. It was like when I had like 3,000 followers.
I
It was
think I
just
saw.
kind
I
of
think
my
I've seen some
friends.
of them, honestly.
Maybe. But
The
I would-
musical theater like people on the internet, like I'm a magnet to them. Like I'm always getting like the girls, the gays, the days, anybody that's like
doing musical
anyone
theater.
that ever like breathed in a theater before, it's like on my For You page.
Oh my God, I love that. So I found that when I started doing sex stories and I would just like open up a question box and people would ask me things that they were like scared to ask anyone else because it was anonymous.
Yeah.
And then I would talk about my experiences, and all of a sudden everybody knew like really intimate details about my sex life.
Yeah.
And then people, my friends, like in real life that I hadn't seen in a long time, would stop me
Yeah.
and say like, oh my God, that was such an empowering story. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that, or like that, made me realize maybe I'm into this kink, or like I want to try this thing.
Yeah.
And then I realized that the armor I was wearing that was like, I don't share anything because I don't want to be vulnerable, was actually a cage that was trapping me in.
Yeah.
And once I let go and shed that armor, and I
Yeah.
decided that vulnerability was going to be my new stasis,
Yeah.
then the confidence came from the fact that I have put myself out there as my most authentic form. And if you don't like that, then that's whatever.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I'm not doing is lying. You know that, like, it's literally like, don't
Yes.
rain on my parade.
Yes.
At least I didn't fake it.
Yeah. like,
I guess I didn't make it.
Yeah.
I am a cumma.
Yeah. I am.
That was a pun.
But also, I think there's like a weird war on vulnerability as it
Yeah.
relates to like all non-cis men, because like,
Oh, sure.
and even them, but in a different way, where it's like people are afraid for non-cis men to be vulnerable because they know that it like frees us,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
right?
Anything that remotely empowers those that are powerless is terrifying to the people who
Yeah.
hold power, which
Yes,
means
yes,
you're
yes,
doing
yes.
something right.
Exactly.
You know, like once you start, I mean, not that we ever want this, but like I'm sure you've had the experience where you get a bunch of shitty like cis men in your DMs,
Yeah.
like telling you how to live your life and
Yeah.
pointing a finger. But my mom always said, when you're pointing a finger, look at how many fingers are pointing back at you.
So that is so real. Get your mama here now.
My mom is great.
That's so fucking
Yeah.
true though.
Right? So it's like, oh my God, that's just
Like, you
internalized
don't-
shame. If I'm like, listen to me, you
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
Like pretending I was a man. That's my man voice.
No.
Listen to me, you woman. Like 3
She's an
fingers are
actor,
pointing
that
back
was-
at me.
Dropping in the
Dropping it in.
Um,
Points.
Well, okay,
Check
wait.
off.
Acting, I wanted to talk
Yes.
about it. Tell us about your BFA, because like I didn't get a BFA, I got a BTA.
We almost went to school together.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So I got a BTA in theater art, playwriting, producing, but I was like,
From Michigan, right?
yes, and
Sorry to interrupt you.
I was always no, you're so fine. I was always near like the MT girlies always because
Yeah.
like that's what we do, whatever. Like it's very tight knit. So I'm familiar with like the struggles and the pitfalls and the wonders and the beauty of BFA life. Where did you get your BFA and what was your experience like getting it?
So I went to NYU.
Yeah.
It's a school in New York. I don't know if you've
I
heard
don't
of
know
it.
if you guys have ever heard of it before.
Tiny downtown thing,
Little
big
West
into
Village.
gentrification.
Yeah.
And I actually have a BM in vocal performance with a concentration in musical theater and a
Ooh.
minor in the business of entertainment, media, and technology, and
Okay.
another degree in child and adolescent mental health studies, and half of an advanced vocal pedagogy certificate.
No, like we have a
I was
genius
busy.
on our hands.
No. What that says is I had not shed my people pleasing skills when I got, or my
Yeah.
need to people please.
You were
when I
like,
got
fuck,
to
I really
college.
gotta.
I'm gonna get all the degrees, and everyone's
Yeah.
gonna love me. I was like sometimes the mascot for my program, which is not always a good thing.
No, it's not.
My degree is a complicated experience because there are 2 women that I met that were acting and dance teachers that changed my life because they looked at me and they said, you have a gift, you have power, I'm going to harness it and I'm going to cultivate it. And they didn't do that just with me. They did that with everyone because they were the kind of people that were open and soft and feminine in the ways that I think are the most powerful on earth,
Yeah.
right? Like they were able to look at you and they were able to like use all the elements like earth, wind, water, fire, ether, like if you're like
Yeah.
spiritual like that, and they were able to find the one that you were missing or that you needed, and they were able truly just to look at you and see you and go, all right, I love this about you, let's
Like,
mine this,
yeah.
right? So I met some of those women, and then I also had a really complicated relationship with the vocal training. I think I left school a worse vocalist than when I got there.
No way.
Yeah, it was not the technique for me. I really don't stand by what I was taught. And I don't think that was the fault of like my individual voice teacher was lovely. Like I loved him. He was so caring for 4 years. And I think that the overall school of pedagogy was fucked.
Yeah.
Like I just came out sounding really nasal and pinched, and that's not what you want to hear.
No.
And it's not like the fun like Telsey bright ping. It was like it was just kind of like up here, and like that was what we were trained to do. And
Like in the back of your throat almost too.
yeah, it was just there was no space. And I had some complicated relationships with different professors, and you know, there's like I'm writing about it now in my book that I'll eventually write, that I have started. There was a lot of like, is this a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, you're my professor. This is a thing. But nothing's happening. So
Yeah.
this can't be a thing, right? So like
Yeah.
that's not grooming because like you haven't done anything, but like I know that look. I know
Yeah.
what it's like to receive that look. I think that's a very feminine, unfortunately, experience. Like
yeah.
to experience the male gaze. And then all of a sudden I was like in the office all the time because I was the assistant and like we were spending all of our time together. And it just got very complicated. And then it was like, okay, so you know how in musical theater school when you're doing a song and you're up there at the piano and you're singing your Rodgers and Hammerstein ballad about like please love me or something like that. Usually you pick a partner and it's like, okay, I'll sing to you because you're my friend and like
Yeah.
stand there and I'm gonna sing like a human. And
Yeah.
so I had a teacher and the same one that was like, all right, James, do it again and like just sing it to me and change the pronouns.
Oh.
And so there I was, like this baby gay. I was the only gay in that class, like particularly. There were only a couple of gays in my musical theater program, which is wild.
Which is like,
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
I feel like it's usually the other way around.
Usually the
like
other way
the
around.
straights are like,
But
who are
no,
you?
we were very heterosexual in our musical theater program. And I remember that like for a year and a half, I sang to him. And so like there's a whole canon of songs that like I can't revisit without hearing his voice in my head.
Uh,
I only see him. And like he would act them with me. He would be like, no, like I have to leave you. This isn't working. And then I'd have to keep singing or like, we can make this work, James. And like, then I would just like cry because I was like, I don't even know if I feel things for you, but like, and I don't know if you feel things for me. And then one time he called me his ex's name, like in class accidentally.
Ew.
So there was a lot
the
of
power
trauma.
struggle there too. It's
Power
just very,
dynamic,
very
the
unfair.
struggle. I really do think, and this is not to excuse any of the behavior because it's complicated and I've never spoken to him about it. And I think that he was trying to do his best, but didn't know how.
Yeah.
And I got the classic, like, you remind me so much of me. And like,
Ew.
I think he was trying to teach the way that he needed to learn.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really complicated. So I walked out hating singing, and I walked out my senior year. I was in callbacks for 2 different Broadway shows, but which was so cool and amazing. And Broadway should call me back more.
And Broadway, hey Broadway, I had
Yeah.
this running joke in college, like not to interrupt you, but you're gonna
No,
love
please.
it, and I have to tell you now. Whenever like we were like applying for internships or like people were auditioning and your phone would ring, you would go, "Hello, Broadway."
Oh
it was like
my God.
everybody at Michigan was like,
Yeah.
"Broadway,
Broadway?
is that
It's
you?"
me?
Especially
Hello?
if it's in like New York, New York. It's like they're calling.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's a fucking telemarketer being like, your
Your
car,
extended
yeah.
car's
Like, I'm like, I don't have a car.
No, I just wanted this, I wanted to
Yeah.
be, and she loves me at Roundabout. I don't want to.
Yeah.
And they were both plays that I was in callbacks for
Oh.
because I was very much potentially the right person to do that. I did not get them, which is something that I think was the wrong choice, but whatever.
Wrong of them.
Again, back to my fatal flaw. I was right,
Yeah.
and they
no,
were not.
You were right.
And I couldn't get past these non-equity, like bottom of the barrel summer stock dance calls. I was getting
Yeah.
cut everywhere, and I was like, I can't sing, I can't dance, but I can act, I guess. And so I asked if I could do a monologue for senior showcase because I wanted to do that instead. And at the time, I panicked and I applied to Juilliard for my MFA, and I got to the finals. And it was wild. And I got to the finals, and one of the acting teachers, I will never forget this as long as I live. I was at Lincoln Center by the fountain, laying there after our day of doing monologues over and over again for the faculty. And I was laying on the fountain, and I think I could have dreamed this. I don't know if it actually happened, but this faculty member tapped me on the shoulder and said, "This is not your year, and you need to go work."
And you were like,
And I was like, it was as if I was Prior Walter
No.
being visited
No, that
by Emma
is-
Thompson,
that is
the
that.
angel in America. And I
that
was like,
the angel in America.
I will go dig up the artifacts. I'm
You were
sorry.
like, okay, I'm leaving now.
And I was like, all right, I'm going to go work instead. I'm not going to hide behind getting another degree. I need to go forge my way and find myself as a person. And this is 4 years later. I would have gone to Zoom school, I guess.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh my God, I see exactly why I didn't need to go back to school. So I was a little bit of I was really into my BFA, and I was really into getting my musical theater degree,
Yeah.
so much so that I think it cost me a lot of myself.
Yeah.
And I spent the next 4 years taking every piece of training that I got and taking a hard left.
And deconstructing.
And that's when I started working.
Yeah, I love that. So your story gave me this vivid memory that I think you're gonna love.
I'm ready.
Where when I was 17, I was like, I'm gonna get a BFA. I really.
Really?
So this was my thing. I can sing and I can act.
I
and
heard your
dance.
Bonnie and Clyde.
I can
watched
sing.
that video.
And so I don't sing a lot, but I can.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm gonna be a performer, and I worked really my voice, how it is now, my mix and everything. That was 4 singing lessons a week to try to get that because I wanted it so bad. I was
Yes.
never naturally gifted. I worked my ass off for it. And I think when I was younger, a lot of the things I was naturally good at, I felt like I shouldn't be doing because it wasn't enough of a challenge, or I hadn't figured out how to make it challenging for myself.
Oh, okay.
And that was writing being one of them. And so I was gonna audition. And then I woke up one day in high school and I was like, I don't want to do the auditions for my BFA anymore. And my parents were like,
Oh.
what's wrong? This is all you've been doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to. I just realized I don't want to. So just go to one. Let's just go to one. And I was like, okay. It happened to be Carnegie Mellon here in the city, the studio. I forget which studio. And my mom brought me. And it was this crazy day with hundreds of people. And
Yeah.
there was 70 people in the waiting room, and they were pulling people one by one in to do their songs and then one by one in to do their monologues. And the woman that was doing the monologues was the head of the department.
Barbara.
Yes. No, I'm not.
Not
I'm
me still
I
remembering
shall
this.
never forget to this woman. And so I do my first monologue, and I would say if we ranked my skills, acting would be my best. So we do my first one, and she's like, take off your shoes. And obviously obviously my ass has gotten used to that, like going to theater school.
Yeah.
But like at this one, I'm like, okay.
Suzuki.
So I take off my shoes, we do it again, then we do my other one. And at this point, I have been in there for 25 minutes. Every other kid, 5 minutes, 2 monologues out. And
Everyone hates
she's
you.
like, listen, let's talk. So we like sit down and we start talking.
And you
she's
got
like,
the talk of like, what other schools have you applied
Yeah,
to?
and she was
Oh,
like,
no, just
yes,
kidding.
yes. What other schools have you applied to? What are you thinking? And she's like, she was like, you're smart. I just don't. She's like, there's something about you that I just needed to talk to you about what else you're looking at in life, because like there's something about you, but I don't know if it's this, but there's something. And I was like kind of like
Whoa.
upset and kind of pissed, and it was like this weird moment, and she was like this like stern, sort of angelic but
Yes.
mean creature. And I was like sitting there like 17 years old, and she was like, there's just something, and it's not this, but it's like something. So then I like leave, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then
Yeah.
so before, what was happening was the assistant was bringing in the next kid. I'm fucking putting on my shoes. She walks me out, walks me up to my mom, and goes, Mom, whatever you do, don't let her stop. And then turns around, and every single person at this fucking audition is like, what the hell? And I'm like, I still don't want to do this. I did not get in. I was like, I still do not want to be here. I still do not want to do BFA. I still need to go home. Like, bring me home.
Oh my God.
But it was this thing that sometimes I come back to whenever I'm reminded of it, where it's like, similar to your thing, like the don't stop, like she was right. Like there was
Yeah.
something, but it wasn't that. And she was right, like not to stop and just like keep forging ahead.
Right.
And it was kind of like beautiful, like that moment. And it's such a older women, stern, older, angelic sort of women.
Yes.
They fill that role sometimes.
Do. And I wonder how many of us will become those women.
All of us. I need
Maybe.
to. Like, couldn't
that
you
your
see,
path?
Couldn't you see us like teaching a class? But it's like, have you ever seen those TikToks that it's like your dance teacher who just had 7 coffees, and it's like a guy wearing a bunch of beads, like shaking a maraca, and he's like, feel your feelings. I'm like, why do, like, it's a guy in a cloak, like dancing around being like, touch your senses. And I'm like, this kind of feels like something I could get behind.
I do think I would like really love to go back into not teaching. I used to think I was going to graduate and like have a great career. I don't know why I'm giving you illustrations of foot and hand, but that's what
It's really musical of us.
yeah, it's so #Broadway.
Yeah.
And I
Double
used
a
to think
day.
that I was going to like retire into running NYU. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
running
like
the NYU
being
theater
the
program.
top dog.
And now I'm like, I think I'd love to go back and give master classes on why your BFA doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
But what does really, really, really matter is finding the people that are going to cultivate the most authentic version of you in whatever art form you want, because you can apply that anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be on stage.
Yeah.
And even if like you didn't get a BFA, but that doesn't mean that you're not still intrinsically connected to your artistic spirit, and that doesn't
Yeah.
permeate everything else that you do, and that's not a guide in your life.
Yeah.
And I think that we all can have that.
I love that. Well, on the topic of acting, like you're a
Mhm.
working actor now, you're doing the thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I always think
Mhm.
about those of us in the creative field and how our identities sort of like play with our artistic sides and
Totally.
pursuits. I just want you to speak to that, because I feel like I see you talking about it a lot online, and I think it's really impactful, because a lot of people think like, oh, I'm acting, so I'm just like being somebody else. And it's like, it's so much more about also who you are and how you feel in your own body.
I don't think it's about being somebody else at all.
Yeah.
I really don't. I remember the Meryl Streep quote about acting as about finding the similarity in what is apparently different and finding yourself in that. And I think about that all the time, because every character that I have been hesitant to do or play or even audition for was because it was a version of myself I wasn't yet ready to face.
Oh my God, I just got chills.
Right?
Yeah.
And once being vulnerable online is sometimes easy because there is a wall, there is a filter. And I don't mean like an Instagram filter. I mean that like I get to curate what you see. So when I'm
Exactly.
telling you stories about my sex life, I'm still only telling you as much as I want to know.
Yeah.
It's more than the average person's ever going to tell you. And I hope that it's like useful and valuable.
Yeah.
And it's also something I've curated. But when somebody hands you a script and says, do this honestly, you can't curate it. You can only do it as honestly as you, as a human, would do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've played some ugly characters. Like they had people that I would not want to meet necessarily, and people that I would not be proud to be if I were them.
Yeah.
But I knew some reason that I was the right person to tell those stories. And then a bunch of other people in the creative rooms agreed. And I was like, this is so fucked. I'm
You
like
were like,
a happy,
"This isn't
fun
me."
person. What do you think? And they're like, but you're willing to go there.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay. So for me, it's like, I mean, it's such an examination of humanity and the things that I think are interesting about the way our brains work and
Yeah.
how they get shaped by the world around us. And, you know, are people born wicked or do they have wickedness thrust upon them is kind of the central question, right?
Yes.
And yet, now that I have come into my gender, I say coming into myself instead of coming out
Oh, I like that.
because I do. I feel like it's like, you know, like when you're video editing and like they have the freeze frame and then somebody
Yeah.
catches up into the freeze
Yes, yes,
frame.
yes.
I feel like I've now caught up into my freeze frame gender wise,
Ah.
right? Write that down. That was good.
That's
Damn.
really good.
That's how it feels. And the first union job that I booked was playing a woman. And now I have had 2 jobs in the union as an equity actor.
That's the way.
Both of them are playing my gender. Whoa. You want to know what my non-union resume is? Man,
yeah.
Broadway leading
Yeah.
man. I wasn't on Broadway, but like
No, but you will be.
yeah,
in the
one day
past.
when the project is right.
Yeah.
I've had so many heartbreaking like almost.
Almost.
And then when I see the person who got it, I thought I would be like such a like jealous bitch about everything. I am thrilled for these people. They
Also,
are
it's like,
fabulous.
You kind of exhale and you're like, that was your moment. This is your
That
moment
was your moment
right now.
and
And
I'm
I'm going to
gonna have mine.
Yeah.
And I love that I get to celebrate you and yours because I could never do it that way.
Yeah.
And what a breathtaking experience it is to see another non-binary person take the stage. Oh my God, there's more of us. Thank
Yeah.
goodness. Like, I'm glad you're getting your flowers. I'll get mine too. You know, that's
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that because what we're not taught back to like the scarcity mindset of non-men and how we can't do multiple things is that we're taught there's not enough room for us.
Yes.
There is a famous woman choreographer, director, person who notoriously does not bring women up with her because she says that there's limited space for women, so it can just be her. The fuck?
Girl.
I think that's changing. I've heard some rumors
Yeah.
that that's changing, so I will not name drop
Yeah.
because I would love
No,
to
but
see that
I
change.
think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just a bit frustrating too, because like I want to be on your side
Yes.
celebrating you. Like, but you won't even let me.
Right.
Like, you're not even letting me.
It is
so
not. We don't close the doors behind us when they get
No,
opened for us.
no.
We take a hammer to the door frame.
that's what I always say. I'm like, my biggest goal, because I think a lot of times people will like say, like, I think privilege is a conversation with like a lot of people online, specifically people that have had like really privileged family upbringings like I did, and white people and
Yeah.
cis people, like all these conversations of privilege. And I'm always just like, I have these privileges, they exist, and my 2 jobs are to accept that I have them, talk about having them, and then
Yes.
when I get through a door that was closed but unlocked,
Yeah.
instead of walking through it and just letting it shut and then relock, I have to
Sledgehammer.
keep it open. I
Mhm.
have to fucking break it down, and I have to be like, let's go, guys. Like, otherwise, there's no point in
Yeah.
me even getting through the door. There's no
Yes.
point in that woman even going through the door.
No.
Because what the fuck is she doing up there?
Right.
Like, sitting on a throne and like stomping us all? Like, how are you better for that?
Right. That are you going to be a servant to the patriarchy or are you going to be an ally to your gender?
Exactly. Exactly.
So I agree, very much
Yeah.
so. And I think that gender wise now, I mean, walking into rooms like acting wise has become so difficult because now I'm aware of how they may or may not perceive me.
Mm.
And that it doesn't play with my confidence, but I've just become hyper aware
Yeah.
of how this is a community, the Broadway community specifically, that touts inclusivity
Mhm.
and wouldn't know inclusivity if it hit them on the face tomorrow.
Literally, and people don't get that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the reason I left producing is because I was
Mm.
like, I literally thought that the whole thing about Broadway is that it wasn't all straight white men,
And it is.
and it is.
It is. There are changes that are happening, but like if you think of Broadway as a corporation, like it's the same few employees
Exactly.
everywhere.
Exactly.
It's just another giant corporation.
People don't think of it as like it's a company. It's like one big
Yeah,
corporation.
like your individual show is not the company. Broadway overall is the company.
Yes,
It's why you have
yes.
the same producers, the same directors, the same, set designers and whatnot.
and people on top are the
And
people
you're
on
working
top.
with the same unions, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that those are bad things all inherently, but I am saying that there are some issues that come with. I think of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's TED Talk, "The Danger of a Single Story." You know, she wrote We Should All Be Feminists.
She wrote We Shall Be Feminists. She wrote Americana.
Yeah,
She's-
Americana. Okay.
Her
so,
TED Talk is one of my favorite TED Talks
Yes,
ever.
the danger of a single story, of like when you only have one voice, that becomes a monolithic representation of a community that does a disservice to everyone. Right?
Yes.
And that's what Broadway is right now. Even though we see like, oh, great, we have like done some more inclusive casting. We have done diversity, which is not inclusion.
Yeah.
Diversity means things look different. Inclusion means everyone that's different belongs here
Yeah.
and is equitably offered a seat at the
Yes.
table that fits their needs.
Yes. I was just gonna say that's the whole reason it's diversity,
And-
equity,
and
and inclusion.
inclusion.
It's not just like one word. It's
Yeah.
3 things. It's
Yeah.
separate.
Yeah.
And I think like social media especially like conflates these words and gives them new meaning. Not even just those words.
Mhm.
Gaslighting is a word.
Oh
that
my
social
God,
media-
the pop psychologization.
Nepotism is a
of-
word that fucking social media people have taken and run with.
That's,
Like,
I think, the newest one.
yeah, there are those are 2 glaring examples that are like recent and up to date.
Narcissism.
Narcissism. I'm like, do you guys even fucking know what this is?
I feel like you shouldn't use the word. I'm trying to take out the word should. We as a culture cannot use the word narcissism unless we all know what a cluster B personality disorder is.
Yeah.
Because you need to know who you're stigmatizing if you're going to do it. Like
Yeah.
when you're going to be a bigot with your whole chest. right?
Exactly.
If you're going to pop psychologize, new word. You're going to pop psychologize words, understand the ramifications of your
Yes.
actions. Like
Or just like,
accountability has gotten so
oh
whitewashed.
yeah, there are just like so many words that I'm like, you don't even know what these mean.
No.
And honestly, frankly, I might not even know what they fully mean. But if I want to use them, I need to understand what they actually mean.
Yes.
I listened to a whole podcast about narcissism with like a psychologist.
Oh yeah.
And a psychiatrist, and they were like actually explaining what it was. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, what the fuck
Yeah.
is wrong with TikTok?
It's so like what they're meaning is self-centered, self-absorbed, things like that. So say those things.
Yeah, say those words.
I'm a big say what you mean person.
Yes.
Like when you're calling something out, name the system, name it misogyny, name it patriarchy, name it transphobia, name it anti-fatness, name it racism,
yeah.
name it anti-black racism, name it anti-indigenous racism. Like be specific about it
Yes.
so that we understand what we're against and what
Yeah.
we're fighting to deconstruct and why.
Otherwise, we just have word salad.
Word salad.
And I can't stand word
Yeah,
salad.
I love specificity. And there's also like I heard a critique of that once about how that is also a symptom of white supremacy because it like really ties into perfectionism,
Yeah.
which I think is true. For me, there's a difference between I'm trying to be perfect with my language versus I'm trying to be as effective as possible.
Yeah. I like that. I also saw a video on my For You page recently that was like, people are so quick to challenge other people or correct them,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
which is like what you're saying about perfectionism.
Yes.
Like, people are, imagine going up to someone on the street and being, that's not how you say that. Oh, you're wrong. That's not how you do that.
we wouldn't.
That's not how you wear that. Oh my God. Imagine somebody coming up to you and saying the things that they put in the comments. Like, oh, hey girl, that's not how you do that.
Actually, you're a man.
Like,
That's what I get.
and you're like, who the fuck are you? Like,
Yeah.
would you even say this aloud? It's like, it's crazy.
I think one of the tensions with the rise of the ordinary social media star, like the person who just is living an air quotes regular life, and they're just relatable because they're not a celebrity, they're not rich, they're not
Yeah.
like going on they didn't go to the Dubai tart trip
They're
or
not
whatever.
jetting
I didn't
off.
even know it was happening. Like no one invited me, which is interesting.
Get the invite.
Anyway. So, but I think what's been so interesting about that is then those people that have built these giant platforms then are responsible for making constructive social commentary on things completely out of their knowledge
That they do
base.
not know.
And then those of us who have dedicated our lives to activism, advocacy, to helping people understand the nuances of an oppressed identity, such as like that's what I try to do with transgender identities. I'm one
Yeah.
of many voices that does that. Then people come into activist and advocate spaces and try to correct them on something that we're educating you on. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, no. Our opinions are being sought out because we have been doing this work to educate on gender,
Yeah.
to educate on whatever your experience is.
Yeah.
I don't have this platform. I don't get to like stand on this platform of privilege because I was rich or had an interesting life. It was because I was offering, I hope, valuable educational
is
content.
valuable.
Thank you. And so I think that that's become really interesting because the way that we police each other
Yeah.
is not only a symptom of white supremacy, but it's also we are not considering our sources as
No.
a community and as a culture. Like, I think it's very fair to critique the ordinary average TikToker that has a ton of followers that is speaking out of turn.
Absolutely.
That is
That's
needed.
different. Yeah.
But when people speak on their own identities and illuminate something that you may not have thought of as problematic, oppressive, a system that we need to challenge and change, your immediate reaction perhaps should not be to discredit them,
Exactly.
but to listen.
I always wonder about this, and I always say this to people, like when somebody like in my life or adjacent to me or even online is trying to discredit somebody's lived experience that they cannot physically have because they do not share their same identities.
Yeah.
I'm always like, my rule of thumb is that if I do not share a lived experience and identity with the person speaking, there's nothing, like, even if I'm like, I don't get it, like, okay, of course you
Of
don't,
course you don't
first
get
of all.
it.
It's not
It's
your
not
fucking lived experience.
Yeah.
But also you cannot say it's not true because it's not your lived experience. Like,
Yes.
my thing is, like, if someone says this is harmful to me because X,
Yeah.
and I do
They're
not,
probably
and I
right.
am not them, then my only job is to listen, because
Yeah.
it is honestly a privilege for me that they are even saying this is harmful for me because of X.
We're also not great as a culture about understanding what systemic harm means versus like individual offense is.
Yes.
And those are different. And like I have spoken multiple times on like this is how your non-inclusive language, insert whatever example here that you want, is systemically harmful to non-men, to transgender people, to non-binary people, whatever the specificity is that I'm using. And then people are like, oh, you just don't like that because you're offended. And it's like, actually, no, I'm not speaking about whether I'm personally offended by these words. I'm speaking about how systemically they're a disadvantage to the people that you're talking about, how
Yes.
systemically they are feeding into stigmas, how they're slurs, whatever
Yeah.
the deal is. Like, I think that we need to be a little bit more competent as a culture and invest some time in learning what systemic harm is versus like social harm, how those systems function.
Yeah.
And what you said reminded me of a quote from, I definitely learned this from an anti-racism educator. I want to say it was Rachel Cargill, but I might be misattributing
Rachel
her. I do
Cargill.
too. I might be misattributing her work. But it was the idea that when someone speaks on something about their experience of an oppressed identity, the first thought when you're like, I don't know about that, should be, what if they're right?
Yes.
And how could they be right? Because then we start to dismantle some of our own preconceived
Yes.
schemas and beliefs. Like, that was one of my things when I was starting my anti-racism journey, which is continuous. That there's no
Yes.
end point for that for white people, for us white people, right? I remember thinking, oh, I really need to listen to all of these anti-racism educators and take them on faith that they're right, because
Yeah.
they inherently know something I cannot and do not and never will.
I never will know.
Yeah. And I want us all to give the same credence to every marginalized social identity.
Yeah.
Not that we've arrived there with racism at all,
Yeah.
but like we certainly
Yeah.
can apply that same idea to, okay, here's a disabled person speaking about how not testing and how not masking in public is really, really aiding a genocide of disabled people.
Yes.
What if they're right? Well, they are. But like,
Yeah.
what if
What
they
if they
are?
are?
And so all of the people that are like, you're just being overdramatic, you're just exaggerating. The reframe for that is, how are they correct?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a game changer for me.
No, it's also I'm big on making things as simple as they possibly can be,
Mm.
so that it's tangible.
Yeah.
That is very tangible. That is
Yeah.
tangible work to be doing in your brain constantly, daily, as you move through the world.
Mm.
Okay, so we keep like going like, but
It's
I
a
love
zigzag.
it. But I wanted to talk more about musical
Yes.
theater before
Oh,
we move
yes.
on. I want to know like your favorite musicals, what speaks to you, your dream roles, like
Yeah.
what was the one that like got you into it and will never get you out of it? Like, no, because we choose to do this, and then sometimes I'm like, why are we choosing to do this?
Yeah.
But it's because there's some love there, there's some passion there. I want to know your favorites, your dream roles, all that good stuff.
I got really lucky. I went to an arts high school
Okay.
and I transferred in my sophomore year. So the first show I ever did was Parade.
Ugh,
What?
where'd the budget come from?
We had a turntable on stage.
Was it
and
LaGuardia?
No, this was in Florida.
Oh.
This was just this one
Florida
random.
has like really good schools for like individualized study. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, Florida has the biggest thespian festival conference in the country.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I didn't understand the gravity of that when I was going, because in Tampa we have the Straz Centers, like our performing arts center.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's gorgeous. Like Morsani Hall is a dream to perform in.
God.
I haven't done it. I was really lucky.
Yeah, you're
And so it's
I've
where
been
like all the
there.
like Hamilton had like a 6-week sit down there or something
Yeah.
like that kind of thing, right? It's that space. And that was across the street from my high school. Literally, like, paddle across the river and you're at the
And
Stress
you're
Center.
there, yeah.
And that's where all the Thespian Festival stuff was. So I was really privileged to see top-notch high school art, essentially,
Yeah.
and participate in it, and be in an environment that nurtured that. So I got spoiled with the shows that we did.
Yeah.
Like, the things that made me fall in love with theater were Parade and Bat Boy and Spring Awakening
Ugh,
and Curtains
it.
and Rent.
Curtains.
I did all of those shows in high school.
Curtains is so
Underrated.
slept on.
Yes, regional theaters
So
need to be
slept
doing.
on.
It could be Curtains
It's
or
so
Dishes or that's not
fun.
from that show, but it literally
It's so
great show.
fun.
And I remember one of the things that got me in to I was telling Courtney Wolfson and Curtis Holbrook, or Curtis and Court, the head shop
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
photographers.
yeah.
Courtney Wolfson's the original blue hair, right? Like, I'm bored, I'm awesome, it's almost
Yeah.
one. That's Courtney Wolfson at UMich at the Girly Show, right?
I did not know.
Oh my god, yeah. Who then became Wednesday Addams, Eponine, like
Yeah.
all sorts of the Kinky Boots.
Select.
Legendary. Courtney, if you're watching, I love you.
You are a queen.
So watching her do blue hair was like, I want to do musical theater.
Yeah.
And I watched like the Girly Show at UMich, and then
the
I watched
girly show.
Kerrigan and Loudermilk, like Say the Word. It was like
Wait, sorry,
Megan Fahey singing Say the Word.
One thing about Kerrigan and Loudermilk that I have to like be so fucking clear about, like when people are like, "What kind of music brings you out of like the darkest depression?" I'm like,
A
I don't
suspended
think
chord
I don't
in a
think I
Kerrigan Loudermilk show.
I don't think I can like say it's like Lindsay Mendez singing a song,
Avalanche,
like Lindsay.
hand in hand.
There, Lindsay Mendez singing Hand in Hand live, like, or like, what's the
Lindsay
one that's
Mendez.
like, shit, I know that swearing isn't helping it, but fuck, I've had enough. This waiting isn't getting better. The one that's about the pregnancy, and then there's like, it might not be
I don't
Kerrigan and
know which one it
Loudermilk.
is.
Oh my god, wait, I'm actually gonna find it. It's like I have a whole playlist of like songs that like people have written that are like musical theater adjacent, but they haven't done
I-
anything with them.
I'm surprised I don't know this because I used to be like the rep nerd at my school. and I would
About
give
this
people obscure
shit.
songs.
Yeah, no, this is so obscure. It's about like she takes a pregnancy test and she's like pregnant, but then they like also have like an adjacent song that's about like the guy finding out. Wait, oh
This
my
is
god,
great.
I need to find it. But wait, continue.
Yeah, and then stop me when you find it, please.
Yeah, I'm going to.
So
Don't worry about it.
those are the things that got me in. Like the last 5 years was my favorite cast recording. Like for
Ugh.
my birthday, my dad and I flew to New York for a day to see like the Betsy Wolf Adam Cantor revival. And that day was closing matinee. And this man walked out and started playing the piano, and that man's name was Jason Robert Brown. And so he
Stop! No
scored
way!
that show.
No
and so Betsy
way.
Wolf goes, "Why does this pianist hate me?" And we all lost it. You know?
Oh my!
And it
wait.
was just, my
That's
parents
so
are divorced and
special.
always have been my whole life. So that particular score felt like it offered me clarity on a time that I was not even alive for, but affected the way that I
Yeah.
live today.
Yeah.
And I became very interested in pieces that offered me clarity on why the world is the way it is today. And so Spring Awakening was like the next step of that, right? Because if you look
Yeah.
at Spring Awakening, that's the generation that breeds Nazis. Like,
so right.
we don't really talk about that
Awakening
when
was
we're
also
doing
the
Spring
first of that.
Awakening. But if you look at the repression and you look at the lack of education and connection and communication, that I think the play is about communication,
Yeah.
but between adults and kids, and then we look at the world we live in today, those are connected. It is it's the same story we're having today.
Yeah.
It's just you can insert other identities for it. And I finished a production of Spring Awakening, and I remember like at high school, and I walked out and I saw a woman I didn't know, and she said to me, "I think I'm going to go talk to my daughter." And I didn't know what that meant, but I could tell that it really meant something to her.
You were like, whoa.
Yeah, after seeing this like high school production of Spring Awakening. And she was like, "You know, you were fabulous," and all these wonderful things that she said that I still remember. And I was like, "Oh, okay. So this is offering you something that like the last 5 years offered me, and this is how we keep the
Yeah.
cycle going."
I love the last 5 years. Okay,
What
I
was the
found
song?
it. It's Cassie Gasparini,
Casey Gasparini?
and Drew Gasparini. This like I could use a drink
I can
album.
use a drink.
So there's these two songs, and they're like meant to go together. And Two
Should've
Little
known
Lines is about
Two little lines.
yes.
Oh my
and
god. I
then
knew this.
the
You
other
did know
one
this.
that what's his Jeremy Jordan sings
Yeah,
is like the
gotta-
response.
The
No turning back now.
no.
Where he's like, I'm
turning
gonna be a
back.
dad. It's so
Oh my
fucking dramatic.
God.
And like when I tell you, like, there's something just like idly cringe about these songs, but in a way that I bask in.
They were also such new writers at the time. I don't know if Drew Gasparini was a new writer for that particular
No, but this
album, but
album is perfect to me. And like
like,
I think I spent most of my childhood, like teenagehood, with these songs.
oh, that I was the Kerrigan Loudermilk won our first Mistake album,
Oh, yeah, wait, I'm
and
pulling that up. now 'cause I wanna-
Ryan Scott Oliver's 35 millimeter.
Yep.
Fugitive Songs. I can sing you
Ugh.
every note of Fugitive Songs right now.
No, it's so. It's
Those were the
like-
things that got me into it because they represented a tension and an angst that I was feeling as a young
Yeah.
person, and also a freedom. And like contemporary musical theater at that time was pushing the boundaries of our understandings of gender, of relationships, of sexuality. There were actual queer people writing actual queer
Yeah.
stories. And, Lerner and Lowe weren't doing that.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that those things don't have a
It's
place. Oh, the live
this-
album.
The live album with Lindsay Mendez.
Carrie
sing-
Manolakis doing Runaway with Me on
Oh!
this album.
so
Ridiculous.
good. Like all of this is so good.
It's so good. I play it in the car, like on road trips.
Yeah.
And I just sing the whole thing.
The other
don't
one
even
I
care if it's good.
love is Love Me, Love Me Not.
Love me,
That's-
love me not.
It's a fucking beautiful song. Everybody
Yeah.
that does it beautifully. It's
So simple.
it's so good. It's so
we love
good.
anxious attachment.
No, yeah, no, it is all anxious attachment. So
Should I answer your other question?
Oh
or do you
yeah,
want
no,
to
no.
ask a new
I
one?
wanted you to tell me like what are your favorite shows and
Yeah.
what have you loved seeing lately or just in life?
Ooh.
In life.
I loved Evanston and Salt Cost Climbing that I
Yeah.
saw recently at Signature, and I loved Ain't No Mo. I think that's my
Yeah.
favorite thing I've seen on Broadway in years. It is fucked that closed.
I was so
early.
sad that I couldn't see before it closed.
Oh my gosh! It was Crystal Lucas Perry gave the performance of a lifetime. Every actor. I mean, Jordan E. Cooper.
I'm hoping that it's
Gave-
very well awarded.
I hope it wins everything. I
Like
mean, that
seriously,
piece
like
was
everything.
phenomenal. I loved it. That inspired me. And it was not. I had no business being inspired by that story. It wasn't about anyone like me at all. But it was fabulous art. And what else did I see? This is wild, but I'm going to share this because I don't think we do this as performers. I had to cut together a tape for a production of Hedwig that I'm auditioning for, like another
Yeah.
one. And I hope I get it.
Yeah.
And so I included a clip of like one of the live performance that we
Yeah.
did most recently. And I watched it and I was like, oh, I was good. There were
Yeah.
moments in here where I was like, I surprised myself. There were moments where I had notes, but like I
Yeah.
definitely surprised myself
Such
in
a
moments.
It's such a role. It's like that is when Harry Styles was like it's a movie that feels like a movie. That is a fucking role.
It's a gargantuan undertaking.
like it is huge.
It was literally, I remember I finished and my Yitzhak, Paige Scott, had done it before and as Yitzhak. And she
Yeah.
was like, it was opening night. And she looked at me and she said, this is the hardest thing you'll ever do. And you're doing it at 26, so you might as well have fun. And I
and
was
you were
like,
like,
thank you,
you were
Paige.
like, okay.
Yeah, and she was right. But I was inspired by my own work, which is a first. I really have not had
Oh,
that
I
before.
love that.
Where I got to look at it and go, oh, I do love this. I am jazzed to do more of this.
Yeah.
And I want to do Hedwig once a year. I want to keep mining that story.
Yeah.
I want to, I have
love
to do How I
Hedwig.
Learned to Drive at some point.
Wait, that's like I always have this moment with people that I feel like so spiritually connected to where like earlier in our conversation for some reason I was just thinking about how I learned to drive.
Really?
But for no reason. Like
My
it
God.
just entered my brain and I was like, stop ADHD, like go back to the
No,
conversation.
that
I
was-
swear to God.
Oh my God.
I love that show.
I love that play.
show.
I think it's
it
a
breaks my
perfect
heart.
play.
It's a perfect play.
It's a perfect play. And I know I could bring a version to it
You're really good.
that has an honesty that I would love to share it. I would love to cover some established woman that really knows what she's doing so I could learn from it and
Yeah.
collaborate with her and like go on for a couple matinees, and
Yeah.
see what I could offer it that would be different. But that's a play that I have to do.
Yeah.
And that's the main one. Please, somebody make that happen.
Somebody do it.
I also really want to do a gender bent swapped expansive version of Romeo and Juliet with another like a trans mask where we alternate Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, I love that.
Kind of like Cynthia Nixon
Yes.
and Laura Linney and the
yes,
Little
yes,
Foxes.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
That's beautiful.
And I'm dying to do Cabaret again. I must.
Oh my
do
God, you
Cabaret
must
again.
do cabaret.
I would love to do that with a trans mask and alternate between
that's-
Sally and the MC.
That's incredible. Do you have a musical that you think is a perfect musical? Because you say
Cabaret.
cabaret, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It really
Ragtime is close.
Ragtime.
In terms of the opening sequence, I would say. I don't
Yeah.
really know the rest of it as well as I should.
The thing about cabaret is that it's the kind of show that you see and you almost forget. Like it's sometimes I watch things and as a writer I'm like, fuck the person who wrote this for being such a goddamn genius. Like sometimes I watch television shows and I'm like, oh fuck
Yeah.
you. But it's like loving fuck you, where I'm
Yes.
like,
I
I
can't believe you did this.
I'm shocked. Like,
Yeah.
how did you write something like this? That's how I feel about Cabaret.
Yeah. I think also because my dreams are gender expansive, now they're expanding out of the Broadway world.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm disillusioned by it, but I'm aware as to how little place there is for people like me right now. And that's not scarcity mindset, that's just the truth. And by the time I leave this earth, like we are going to have carved a fucking place for trans
Yes,
people
we are.
on the Broadway stage for sure. But I looked at like the cast of the National Tour of 1776 doesn't have a single trans femme in it. And it's supposed to be this like inclusive cast.
And it's like, no.
And I'm like, there are definitely inclusions of identities and people that we have not seen on stage before. But I feel like that missed the mark. I thought there were so many directions that could have been taken in. And I have plenty of friends on the tour and I'm thrilled for them. So it's not a critique of the individual people, but rather the concept of inclusion being so limited.
Yeah.
Why don't we have people with visible disabilities in 1776? Like, why don't we have people? I mean, we do have people of all ages, which is nice. We don't often get that, but why don't we have trans femmes? Like, how are you telling a story about that is supposed to be women reclaiming something, and you have no trans women in it? That
Just
seems
like
a
doesn't
little
make
fucked
sense
to me.
Yeah.
So now a lot of my dreams are in TV film. Like, I know exactly what I want to create. I got to find the right people to do it. But like, I need to be on season 3 of Euphoria.
You would be great.
Thank you.
You would be great. And we have time.
We have time.
Like, I used to be pissed
Can
until
you
this
imagine?
moment. I used to be pissed about how much time we have
Yeah.
until we get to see it again. But now I'm not, because we have time for you to like get yourself in there.
And if you're listening, because you happen to be writing Euphoria, I've already thought out how this could go.
Wait, I want to know.
Cassie's going to get a new best friend. It's going to be me, because I'm going to be the hot new trans femme that comes to school. Rivalry immediately between me and Jules, right? Immediate rivalry. And then Sydney Sweeney and I become best friends. And then from there, we have the like me and Maddie rivalry, because we have similar enough like hair to where like because the hair and makeup team does so many brilliant things. I'm like, they could bounce looks off of the two of us.
Yes.
That like would be a war, and like there would be
Also-
so many who wore it betters, and like it would always be her.
There's also like a moment that could be had where Maddie is like so pissed that Cassie has a new best friend that she then goes and befriends Jules, and Jules is like, bro,
Whoa,
what the
what?
fuck is going
What?
on? Like,
Yes.
why do you want to be my friend? We've never even
Yes.
really had that much connection. Like,
Yes.
and it's like, well, because like you're so cool, but it's like secretly
Yeah.
because like she's threatened by
Yes,
you.
yes. Oh my god. And then alternate universe like subplot that goes on is like, and I love parallels. I think they're really fun to play with, and Euphoria does do them very subtly. I would love to like have like I meet Nate's dad in a completely unrelated like sphere.
Yeah.
And like I'm really into him, but he's not into me. And so we have the opposite of what was between like him and Jules, but we have it the other way around, and it's like my character being in love with him.
Yeah.
And I've thought about it. And I just think something like that needs to happen.
Let's do it.
I would really just love to be a series regular on something where I get to play a non-binary person.
Yeah.
And it's authentic to where like I don't have to worry about like shaving every day.
Yeah.
Or I don't have to worry about whether the dialogue's going to be correct, because it can be collaboration with the writers where we're like, we just want to do this honestly and not worry about whether it's the right portrayal. Because an honest portrayal is the right portrayal. And then, there need to be a zillion other non-binary people telling other stories besides the ones I'm going to tell, because they got experiences I don't.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Speaking it into existence.
I love it. We're manifesting.
Manifesting.
So, kind of switching gears, but kind of on the same topic, like, you're a person that's like put yourself out there, both like online, like it's such a vulnerable thing to do that. It's such a vulnerable thing to be in the creative arts and film, TV, acting, like in general, because just by nature of it. And I don't want to ask you how you handle haters, because I think that's inherently negative. I want to ask you instead how you stay positive in spite of them, because I think that something that you do so well is that, like, we've been talking about this already, like there are just these people offering opinions on things they don't even know about, and would never act that way in real life, and yada yada yada. I want to know how you stay positive in spite of this, because to me, as I see you, you're obviously a whole person with a whole range of human emotions, but I feel like you're two things: one, positive, and two, a good coper. I feel like you know how to cope with things.
Thank you. I think a lot of that is the privilege of growing up in a world that privileges white people. Like, Who Gets to Heal is political. Wagatwe is one of my favorite anti-rape activists, and she talks about how who gets to heal from trauma is political. And I, in our society, am one of the people that gets to heal because of the identities I hold, right? So I think part of it's an acknowledgement of that. Like, the resiliency factors that I've been afforded are privilege, right? At the same time, the key ingredient that I think everybody can find a version of is community. I have had the unfortunate pleasure of being attacked by a lot of right wing extremists. You know, like
Yeah.
I was on Libs of TikTok multiple times. Like Chaya Raichik is obsessed with me. I'm trying to take that word out of my vocabulary because a lot of OCD activists have been telling me that I need to not say that. So, teaching moment. What's a word I can replace that with? Chaya Raichik.
Obsessed.
Yeah.
Is
Chaya Raichik
your number one fan.
is literally my number one fan. I
Like,
live in her brain rent free.
no, like she's in the DMs, like she is.
And I ended up like Ron DeSantis's like secretary like used me as like the reason that we need the Don't Say Gay bill. I mean, it was so fucked up and awful.
Ugh.
And once you realize how much bigger these things are than you, it's kind of liberating and also horribly depressing at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's a world where from there I would have just spiraled and they would have won.
Yeah.
You know, and that does happen for some people. That's why, you know, suicidality rates amongst trans people are so disproportionately high compared to the rest of the cisgender population. Like, we know that there is a targeted attack and that they are winning in some ways. And I, out of spite, refuse to let them. I'm a big spite person. Like,
No.
success is the greatest revenge. And like,
Oh,
I'm
it
going to stay
is.
alive and I'm going to have more followers
Yeah.
than Chaya Raichik one day because I'm going to do my best to build a community that leads
Yeah.
with love, right?
Yeah.
But I think coping wise, it's community. Once I stopped dating and I started focusing on my friendships and I started focusing on cultivating and nurturing like my closest friend circle, everything got easier
Yeah.
because I had people that I loved and would be there for at any time of the day and vice versa.
Yeah.
And that's how I cope. I turn my phone off and I go into community when I end up on some terrible thing. I use filters a lot on social media.
Yeah.
If you put a shitty comment, I probably won't see it at this point.
Oh yeah, me either.
You got to make your own video and you got to say it with your whole chest under not an anonymous thing because I have so many things filtered. If I go look through my filters, like on comments that I would
Yeah.
need to approve on TikTok, it's a landmine.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
so is mine. And my problem is
it?
my fucking thing doesn't really work. Like when
Do
I
you
do
get them
that,
in your notifications still?
no.
Oh,
But what will happen is that if I did a word like, I don't know, I didn't do this, but let's just say it was the word nose because people would make fun of my nose. They didn't. That's not one of them, but let's say it was. TikTok would think anytime someone commented no, N-O, it goes in the filtered because
really?
of nose. All of mine happens like
So
that.
there's like a glitch in.
Yeah, there's some glitch in the TikTok.
Okay.
And so I unfortunately I have to go through them.
Yeah.
But it definitely stings, but I don't hate it because it's not like there and I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to delete that. It's just like not there. It's just
I'm-
like in my own private jail for them, I guess. Like in my
Truly.
own, like I'm locking this away and nobody else can see it.
Truly. I also have found that at this point, everyone said anything to me possible. Like
Yeah.
I sometimes used to rate the hater comments because I thought it was funny because they would
Yeah.
get really creative, especially with the unaliving threats.
Ugh.
But I know, terrible. And the way that I cope is with humor. It's like, okay, well, this is
Yeah.
just funny. Because I remember Jeffrey Marsh made a video about this, and they said that they talked to their partner because of all the threats they were getting on their life. And they said, I've decided that if that's going to happen, that's going to happen, but I can't let that be in the way of my life. You know, if somebody really does want to cause me harm, they're going to find a way to do it. So I can't
Yeah.
hole myself up in my home forever.
Yeah.
And I feel similarly, which is, it's dark. And I hope that that can be inspiration for people to fight for trans rights even harder.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to like, oh, that sucks for James. Like, yeah, of course it sucks. But at the same time, can you use that as fodder to
Yeah.
go make your community a better place so
Yeah.
that you don't accidentally placate somebody who would be that person in
Yep.
my DMs, you know?
Yeah.
I also use a lot of them as teaching opportunities because they can be. And I know that I am working and have cultivated a community that is fiercely dedicated to transgender liberation.
Yeah.
And if I can use these hateful moments as teaching tools, then at least they're not wasted.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
But community, queer community,
Community.
it's my speed dial,
I love
essentially.
it. I love it. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you two fun things now because I
Okay.
feel like you and I we're gonna have to do a part 2 because we could talk all day and like so much of this I feel like was so like we got so deep and intense, but
I am.
I had no,
It's
but
what
I
do.
love it because I am too. I'm
Yes.
very
I can tell. It's why I
water
love you.
sign vibes. I love
What's
listening.
your sign?
Cancer.
Are you a What's your rising?
Sag.
Duh! Oh my
What
god,
are
that's
you?
why I'm in love with you. I'm a double Leo.
Oh my god.
Sun and rising. What's your
Ah!
moon?
Guess.
Gemini?
Cancer.
Cancer. Okay, my moon's in Pisces, so we have the
Okay,
whole
yeah, and
water
then
moons.
also my Mars and Venus are in Cancer. People
Whoa.
are so scared when I'm like Cancer, Sun, Moon, Mars, Venus,
What house are they
Sag
in?
rising.
Do
It's
you
a
know?
good question. I don't know off the top of my head. And then my Mercury's Leo.
Oh, my Mercury's also Leo, and so is my
Like
Venus.
that's why we're such chatters.
So chatty.
So
And
chatty.
they're all in my first house, which is why it's
Ooh.
like when people meet me, a lot of before TikTok, like when they met me in real life, people were like, oh my God, James is so fake. And then they spent 5 minutes talking to me and they were like, oh my God, this is who you
This is
actually
actually
are.
who you are.
I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's literally who I am.
I know that whatever one my Venus is in, when I was reading about it for the first time, it kind of like hit me in this strange way because I do want to have a life partner, but
Hmm.
I've always thought in my soul that like I could just never get married and be fine, and I want it because I have fallen into love with people that I want to spend my life with.
Okay.
But whatever it was saying about my house was like you kind of are just like a lone bird, and like you could fuck with that. Like that was a really like
Wow.
colloquial way of saying whatever they told me, which was basically like you're a lover, but like you don't need to be. It was almost like saying I just didn't need to be with anybody. But I was like, it's not that I don't want that, but I kind of like resonated with it in this like kind of strange, calm way where I was like, it's kind of nice to know that I just like that wasn't a crazy thought, you know?
How did you feel about it?
So I've been in a relationship for 2 years and like we're very much so in love and I'm very happy and he's like my rock, my person. But my whole life I've always kind of thought to myself like I saw this psychic one time I was interviewing her, it was this whole thing, and she said that she never married because she doesn't look at the end goal of relationships as forever. She looks at the end goal of relationships as something entirely different, and she gets bored, and it was just like never a priority for her. And it was really refreshing for me to hear because I had never heard specifically a woman say that
Yes.
to anybody before, like literally ever in my life. I was like, wow, like I can have a relationship with my partner that doesn't need to be my sole priority, or like the number one thing I aspire to does not need to be marriage and partnership. Like I can, like I've always felt like I'm aspiring, like I always felt like that would be a part of my life, but it wouldn't be my life, and I'm not. And there are like plenty of women who it is their life and they chose that, and like my mom is one of them. Like she's like an amazing mother, and like she chose like this is what she wanted, and we have conversations sometimes that sometimes she said feels like she didn't have a choice, but at the same time like she doesn't want it any other way. I just know that's not me. I know we differ in that way. And reading that, like hearing that woman say, you know, like the end goal of every relationship isn't forever, and I just never married because it wasn't my priority, and also reading my thing of being like you could like rock with being alone, I was like it's kind of just like freeing to know that there's options. I don't
Yeah.
know, do you know what I mean?
Yes. Is that going to be in your book? Are you going to write about
Yeah, I think I'm gonna write about it. I think I have like bits and pieces of my book that I'm not sure if they're going in 100%,
Yeah.
but I want it to if it fits. But speaking of love life, I wanted to ask you because I feel like we have to gossip a
My love
little.
life?
Like what's the hot goss? And there's two fun questions for you left. So this one,
Yes.
give me the hot goss about your dating life, and then
Mhm.
another one that I think you're gonna love that I like. What wasn't even a question that my followers wanted me to ask you. I just like need to know.
Oh,
So, but
okay.
first we're going with the hot goss. Like, what's
What's
the
going
dating
on?
life like? How are you meeting people? Who are they? Name drop them. I'm just kidding.
I'm not meeting anyone, and I'm not dating, and I'm
Ooh.
so happy.
Oh my god, are you so happy?
I
When I
am.
wasn't dating, it was
Yeah.
like it's so funny because like I was a serial dater, and my listeners know this. Like dating so many guys.
Leaving my DNA on your floor.
And then
Yeah.
don't kill anyone. And then I after
You were a serial dater?
serial dater dating so many guys, and then I decided to completely go on a cleanse and not date at all, and it was like actually the best time of my life. And then I like met my boyfriend like probably 8 months into that, and
Yeah.
like it felt right, and I like loved him from the first second I met him, so like obviously wanted to be with him. But there was like something just I was so passionate about those 8 months, like it was just like I don't know, self-reflection.
Yeah, I think we've had a similar journey. I guess you could say a serial dater. I had 4 relationships in 4 years, and
Yeah.
one of them was 2 years long, and then I jumped into another one that broke my heart. I jumped into another
Oh.
one. Maybe I still love him. Not really, though. I love the idea of him.
Yeah.
And then they just, none of them stuck. And like,
Yeah.
I agree with your psychic very much so that none of those relationships needed to be permanent to be impactful.
Yes.
And I think about that. We usually think about that as a negative thing. It's like, oh, this person fucked me over, and like, I'm going to carry that with me for the rest of my life, right? Like, I think about that in terms of like my assault, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's going to fuck me up in some way for the rest of my life. And it's also going to liberate me in ways
Yeah.
for the rest of my life if I choose that path, which I am
Yeah.
trying to all the
Yeah.
time, right? And so at the same time, the love that I had with like each of those guys, each of those people, um, that can also stay with me forever.
Yeah.
And longevity is not measure. That's not the measure of success that I
Yeah.
ascribe to.
Me either.
So I did that for a while, and then I started this project called 100 Happy Dates because I realized I didn't know how to be alone. I didn't know how to date myself. I didn't necessarily want to be in my own company.
We are like ping pong balls.
Really?
Like I was the same way.
Were
like,
you?
The first chapter of my book is about the fact that I like was forcing myself to go out to dinner by myself because like I had like absolutely zero
God.
clue how to even sit in a space with myself by myself.
Okay, so that's what I did. I did 100 dates where I would take myself to dinner, to a movie, to
But
something.
I love it.
The only rule was that I couldn't have my phone because I couldn't
Ooh.
like scroll through anything, and I could bring a journal and I could write if I wanted to. And I went to random places first, and then I started revisiting places that had emotional significance to the relationships, and I started remarking them and taking my power back in them.
Yeah, I love doing that.
Yeah. And I did that for a while. And then we got into the pandemic, and I, had like little things here and there over the past few years. Nothing that was permanent. My ex just texted me the other day that he's still in love with me.
Oh my God, is that a retrograde moment that I'm hearing? Is it retrograde? Something's retrograding.
I don't know. Was it last Friday?
Like, oh my God.
And so then I got lunch with him, and that was horrible. And
No.
I cried on the street for a long time.
Honestly, crying on the street of New York City is like so liberating. Like, and
if I'd been prepared for it, it would have been more
like,
liberating,
yeah,
but I
you're
wasn't.
like you were just like blindsided by it.
So the hot goss is that I was really sad. Well, that was just
The hot goss is that I was really fucking sad.
Well, and then the hot goss is like the week before that I'd gone to this like sex party, and like I met Malik, and I met like all these guys that are like, if you watch the TikTok, you're informed.
Yeah.
And so this is so funny. Content warning, explicit story coming forth.
Thank
And so I go to this sex party at like 11:30 at night on a Tuesday or something, maybe a Thursday, some
Tuesday.
normal night for me. And it was on the Upper East Side. I live 45 minutes away from there.
Yeah.
And so I'm like on the fucking crosstown bus.
No.
And I get there, and like I arrive, and they had just like completed whatever they were doing, like the 5 guys that were there. And so then I was like the new person, and they were like all into me, and it was amazing. And then these other guys like arrived after, and one of them, we just like locked eyes, and like this man just like picked me up and like pushed me against
That's
the
hot.
wall. It was so hot.
That is
and
hot.
Uh-huh. And then I think we were doing the thing, the insane girl thing, where we were like, let's make each other jealous. And then I fucked this other guy, and he fucked this other guy, and I was like, I hate this.
And
I
she's
hate
like,
it
I'm leaving
so
now. I'm
much."
gonna go cry back on the bus.
So I maybe cried in the bathroom. And then
Sometimes you have to cry at the sex party, okay? Like, I don't make the fucking rules.
I came out, and then this other guy asked for my number, and so I gave him my number because he was like being all cute, but not the guy that like had fucked me against the wall.
Yeah.
And so then I got onto the app where like the party had been organized, and I messaged him, and he was like, low key, I was trying to find you. Like I couldn't figure out which headless torso you were. Usually I have my face out, but I don't on this one particular app because I like to be anonymous sometimes.
Yeah.
And but like on Grindr, if you see me, it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my bio says something like the answer is probably yes.
Someone had to say it.
Someone had to say it. And so then we've been texting. I'm gonna share
Ooh.
you the most recent text that we had. This
Oh
is
my
the
God,
hot goss.
please.
I said something like, "Stop! I have such a crush on you," and he said, "Glad the feeling's mutual." Because when you walked in the room, I went star eyes.
Oh, that's so cute.
Which is
It's so fun to be at the early parts of like a little flirty
That's
thing.
the only part of relationships I actually like. I found
yeah.
this. I'm not a fuck boy, mostly because I'm not a boy, but also because I have really worked hard at my communication skills.
And you're not a
right?
fuck person either.
Not a fuck person either.
There's no such thing.
Maybe someone's gonna come out and be like, James Rose is a fuck boy. Like, here's why. That'd be hilarious. Honestly, I would love to hear if I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
I will not text you back. That's true, but I tell everyone that ahead of time.
Yeah.
I have right now, I think 387.
I
unread
only text
texts.
people back if it's pressing, like we're
289
planning
I'm doing well.
something, or if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
pinned. And if you're not, like,
Oh,
good
no.
fucking
No,
luck.
good luck.
Like if you're asking me a question, like I am so sorry. Like
Good luck.
I also hate the idea that people think that we owe them responses like all day, every day. Like
No, we don't. My red receipts are on though, so you know I'm not ignoring you.
yeah,
And if you don't have your red receipts on, you will not be getting a response. You are not trustworthy.
yeah. That's I'm so team red receipts.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know I had mine on. Then I got a new phone because I dropped mine in a pool. And my boyfriend and my best friend were like, hello, where are the
your
red receipts? They were like, I feel really uncomfortable.
I'm glad you say red receipts because someone was like, it's
Read.
read receipts.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry. Do
It's
you also
red.
say Reese's Pieces?
Yeah, like, shut the fuck up.
No way.
God.
So anyway, so Malik and I are texting now like a lot.
Hi.
Might see him on Thursday, but I really enjoy the like. I enjoy human connection with people, and I enjoy the intimacy with people.
Yeah.
I've been working on. I was anxiously attached for a while. Then I was secure. None of those worked for me, so now I'm
Yeah.
trying avoidant.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if
that's
it's
how it
really
works.
working for me either.
See how it goes. We'll have to check back in part 2.
I do think that it is not a coincidence that the time in my life that I would consider when I have been the happiest and when I've been the most connected to myself, my purpose, the work I want to be doing, the legacy I want to leave, is the time that I have not had a partner.
Yeah. Period.
And I think that there's probably a lot of, as I've come into myself as a trans person, and I'm learning to love who I am under this new understanding of who I am, it's going to be difficult to let somebody into that and
Yeah.
let them love me for those things
Yeah.
because I don't even know what those things are to love yet.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's okay to pause for a
Yeah,
while.
we have time.
It's like, it's not like I'm actually avoiding it, that I say that
Yeah.
in jest, and I'm not averse to it. But I don't find the idea of having a partner very interesting to me right now.
Yeah, and
And
that's
I think
okay.
that's really important to honor.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
That's my Saturn
I love
return, I
it.
guess, right now.
I love it. And now we have one last question for you. That's a question from
ready.
me. What is the hair care routine? Like, the girls need to know. Like, when I was looking at your headshots, I'm like, okay, like, clearly there was a blowout involved, but like, I need to know, like, what on the daily are you putting in your hair?
I'll tell you. So
We-
this
the
this is
girls,
my
the
natural
listeners,
hair.
they love the products. Like, they love our product
Listen,
rack.
get
Like,
your notepads out. I
Yeah,
will
come on,
tell you,
girlies.
I do not gatekeep. This is my natural hair, right?
It's
in
beautiful.
New York winter. Thank you so much.
it's like shiny. Like,
Thank
how's
you.
it shiny? Like, my hair is never like
Genetics. My mom's looks just like this.
Damn it.
Yeah, I know. Here's what I do. I wash it 3 times a week with Herbal Essences shampoo.
Slay. And that's it?
That's it.
No. No. Every time I'm like, guys, I love Pantene. They're like, you are putting cancer in your hair. I'm like, I don't think that's possible, by the way. Like,
That's what I do.
literally stop.
I limit the heat products I put on it. So half the time, if you see it like wavy or curled, it's because I wrapped it up in a scarf and did my heatless
Heatless
curls,
girls.
which I really do love. I don't put a lot of hairspray when I do that because I don't want to have breakage.
Yeah.
I did start taking a biotin supplement because I want to grow it out like down to my hips and then like cut it here and donate
Yeah.
it. I've always wanted to donate my hair.
Fun.
And that's it. Just like I limit heat products to maybe twice a month. So like for my most recent headshots, all I did, it took me 10 minutes. I just curled it with a wand and then I brushed it.
And you have beautiful jeans.
Thank you.
Is what we're realizing.
Yeah.
Can you tell the
the
listeners?
skincare routine?
Yeah, seriously. Next.
I wash my face once a week with water and I put nothing
No,
on it.
I'm literally like pissed. I'm pissed. Me goes home, throws out all my products.
You have such a good skincare routine. You
Yeah,
know what
thank
you're
you.
doing.
I just like my product. Like on our part 2 episode, we'll be doing more gossip, and then we'll also
teach
do
me
like
how
a
to
live
do it.
action Glinda Elphaba duet, and then we'll also
Yes.
do a skincare routine. But since we're running out of time, tell the listeners where they can find you now, so they can find you before the part 2.
You can find me at
The
that
inevitable
sex
part.
party on Thursday. I'm just kidding.
We will.
You can find me.
I'm coming. Like I'm gonna walk in there, gonna be like, "Who the fuck did you bring here? Like she is not allowed."
I'm totally. This is my friend. She's like so cool.
She's so cute. She's like a little.
so fun.
She's like a little Polly
gonna vlog.
Pocket.
Are you all fine with that? Did everyone
Yeah.
sign a release
It'll be up on YouTube. Sign an NDA.
on YouTube? You'll get banned.
Yeah, no,
It'll be
you.
porn. It'll be on Twitter. It'll be on Eli's.
Yeah, it'll be on Twitter. I'll put it on TikTok, and I'll get my whole account violated and banned. I'm actually here to just ruin my career. Let's have fun.
Okay. I will answer your question. This is really short. Everyone, just hang on for a second. All the things everyone said that were going to ruin my career are the things that made it happen. I'll just say that.
Period. End of story.
Yeah, everyone told me don't speak about it, transphobia. Just be quiet and take
my
it with a
God.
grain of salt. And just don't even worry that people are doing horrible things. And I said, no.
No.
And then I started talking about it, and people respect me. And there are people that don't respect me because they're transphobic. And then people were like, don't grow your hair, don't change your look, don't be non-binary. And then those are the things that are my best assets and
Yes.
attributes and what bring true value to an artistic community. So
I
when
love it.
someone says, don't change that thing about you, really consider what their motive is.
Yeah.
Because everyone who told me not to change just was afraid that I was going to buck the status
Dumbasses.
quo and that they were going to have to get a personality.
Yep.
So Or they were
Period.
not. They were gonna have to embrace their own individuality,
Yeah.
and they were training to be a sheep.
Hell yeah.
Don't do it. Where you can find me, I am on TikTok and Instagram. Those are my only social medias. I'm at
Love
James
it.
is Smiling on both of them. Drop a comment, a DM, say hi.
Yeah, say hi.
You can also find me at Jessica Chastain on all platforms.
Just as a second, that's your Finsta.
I DM'd the Doll's House Broadway Instagram and was like, I look like her. We have the same jawline. You may know
Yeah.
this from my content. Here's an example photo. I would like to work with you. And they were like, great, we'll keep you in mind for future opportunities.
Then they never reached out again.
That was this morning.
Oh,
They responded
Oh,
and were like,
okay. So
well,
slay.
so we'll see what happens. I tried to book it, but I didn't. That's fine. I'm not mad. And
Not
so you
mad.
cannot find me, unfortunately, at the Hudson Theater understudy of Jessica Chastain, as was my plan.
Yet.
Yet. We're going to do a film together. We're going to do
manifesting.
Euphoria together. She's going to be
Yeah.
my mom.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I think this is an incredibly lucrative experience. I love you.
I love you
We'll
so
see
much.
you guys next time. Bye.